Hello and welcome back to another episode of The Damage Report under lockdown. Thank you everybody who's already in the chat. I guess some of you might be disappointed if you think that it's Wednesday. It's not Wednesday. You can't summon JR that way. This isn't Beetlejuice. Today is Tuesday. We have a lot to talk about, and we have an awesome guest who is joining us to do that. Progressive activist Jordan Ewell is back on the show. Jordan, how's it going?
John, it's going, well, all right, all things considered. How
Yeah.
are you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to have you here. We need more representation from online gamers, and so
That's
we've
right.
got you here to do that. If everybody doesn't know, Jordan streams gameplay as well as his political thoughts. And how have you been doing overall? We haven't talked in like a week now.
Yeah. I could really use a haircut. I like to keep my hair like John Iadarola length. So this is really stressful for me right now.
Hmm.
But I'm counting my blessings. I'm healthy. My family's healthy. But yeah, just taking it one day at a time. Wishing everyone that's watching the best, and hopefully they're staying healthy too.
Yeah. We're going to get to what we're going to talk about in just a sec, but you brought up the haircuts. So I think what I'm experiencing, I think a lot of people might be, is I normally would have cut my hair at this point. I probably would have trimmed my facial hair at this point. But like I'm debating, should I just keep it growing as long as we're in lockdown? Or is that like melodramatic to do that? Like, we're not hiding in caves. There's no need. I have a buzz cut thing. I can go do it right now. Is that a weird thing to do, to grow out your hair while the quarantine is going on?
So I've thought about it, but if I grow my hair out, it starts to get really curly, and I grow an afro.
I want
So
to see
I
it now.
really, oh no, I did it in like seventh grade, and it looked terrible. Just absolute life regret.
Yeah.
I thought I would just. This is when everyone like was like emo was like really big, and everyone was doing like the long hair like swooped over the eye. I thought I could do that too. Mine just grew up. So
Huh.
I'm really hoping I can find a way to get my hands on some clippers and just shave it all off.
Yeah, I'll mail you mine. Um,
Thank you.
back worst haircuts. When I was in elementary school, I had my hair a little bit longer, and I used to just gel slick it back.
Oh
So
hell
I
yeah,
looked like a Trump child, basically, but didn't know any better at that point. And in
that's awesome.
college, I really liked wrestling. I really liked Rob Van Dam. And so I grew my hair out like him, except that my hair grows perfectly Jesus straight to my shoulders. So I looked like an angel. It was not a good look.
Do you
Not
happen to
good at
have
all.
any like photos for reference that
No, I really
I
don't. I mean, that,
promise I won't tweet out?
yeah, totally. No, they'll be leaked to Ken Klippenstein soon. No, that was really pre-camera phone. So nothing exists back in ancient. I think there's cave paintings of it, but that's about it, really.
Sounds
Anyway,
lovely.
thank you so much for being here. Everybody who's in the chat, thank you for joining us. There are over 1,000 of you now. Please hit the like button. That is a great way to let people know that we're streaming, get more people involved in the conversation, and hopefully together push the country in the right direction. Over the course of this hour, we're going to be responding to the breaking news of the president endorsing Joe Biden in just a moment. We're going to give a little bit of our reaction to some of the standout moments from yesterday's press conference. A little bit of good news, new polling numbers for Susan Collins in her re-election bid over in Maine. And assuming we have time, I have a little bit of a roundup of some recent climate change related news. I'm going to file that under not good news, but it is important. And while we do have to take the pandemic seriously, we have to cover its ins and outs, we can't forget that all of the other disasters that we were faced with on a daily basis continue. We're just not paying as much attention to them these days. So, with that, why don't we jump into our first story? Just a few minutes before going live, former President Barack Obama finally weighed in on the Democratic primary, launching his endorsement for his former Vice President, Joe Biden. The video is available online. You can go watch it if you'd like. We're just going to respond casually, I guess. Jordan, what do you make of President Obama doing his endorsement and doing it when he did?
I mean, yeah, he is. I mean, most people in his position just try to play this safe. They don't want to make any enemies. I think this is just, kind of expected. I'm surprised he did it like immediately. I'm surprised he did it when he did, and also like on the immediate heels of Sanders. This is kind of what people expected. There were rumors and reports late last year that he didn't want Sanders to win. There were reports last year and earlier this year that he was considering intervening. And then after we saw all of the candidates drop out and coalesce behind Biden, we saw more reports from people close to Obama that he was talking to them and encouraging them to consider who they could align with. But ultimately, it was just double speak for get behind Joe. So, this is just everyone is now in line behind Joe, except for Warren, who hasn't endorsed. I mean, I guess we could kind of assume she supports him, but no formal endorsement that I saw. So we'll see how this goes. But, now it seems like everyone is unified. Whether or not supporters of each candidate gets behind Biden remains to be seen.
Yeah, and that's going to be a developing story, and the onus is on Joe Biden and his team to make that happen. It's their show. It's the show they wanted. They're now running it. They have to get people to tune in and to want another season, I guess, if I'm going to continue the metaphor, which I probably should have ditched a long time ago. It is. I don't think anyone saw Bernie and Tulsi Gabbard endorsing before Warren. I mean, obviously there's reasons for it. It's just I wouldn't have predicted that 6 months ago. In terms of Obama endorsing right now, I think, first of all, it's news in that it just happened, but it's not news in that it's shocking or anything like that. Of course he's eventually going to endorse. Like, nobody thinks Biden's going to get the nomination and Obama's going to be like, I'm going to see what happens over the next 3 months. No, he's going to get involved. He obviously doesn't want Trump to get reelected. He probably likes Biden. Biden is not that dissimilar in a number of important respects from Obama politically. That's sort of the issue, but not an issue for Obama. I will say I want to give a little bit of credit to Obama and take away a little bit of credit. The credit I want to give to him is it would not have been impossible or unthinkable for Obama to have done this 2 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago, or 3 months ago. He could have done it the night before Super Tuesday if he wanted to. And he certainly wanted Biden to beat Bernie Sanders. He could have weighed in earlier. Now, that's not to say that he wasn't behind the scenes. Clearly he was, and that's a little bit of the credit I'm going to take away from him. But he could have gotten involved earlier. He waited until Bernie had backed out. Little bit of credit there. The issue is that in New York Times reporting around this recently, he's been sort of putting pressure on Bernie Sanders behind the scenes to drop out. So it's not like he was just patiently waiting in the wings. He was involved in that decision. But the fact that he didn't do this earlier gave us at least, the best chance we were going to get for Bernie Sanders to win, considering all of what he was up against. At least Obama didn't come out publicly and put even more pressure on, some of these centrists to perhaps leave, Buttigieg and stuff earlier and line up behind Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there were reports that he was going to intervene early, and that would have really, I think, upset the Sanders camp and his supporters a lot, because you don't want to see someone in that position kind of pulling the strings to further the establishment. I think there's also an issue of legacy, and Biden is a continuation of the Obama legacy. So he has like a self-interest in getting behind Biden, or someone that would, protect the ACA rather than just undoing it and creating a whole new single-payer system. And there's a lot of what Sanders ran on that kind of like directly targets what the Obama administration did through foreign policy, through economic proposals, through healthcare. So it's probably a huge sigh of relief for Obama in that respect. And Sanders didn't win. But yeah, I think to your point, it's a smart move, a savvy move not to intervene early in the primary, like people were worried he was going to.
Yeah. My question to you, I guess, would be, how significant will this be? Biden, obviously, he's going to be going up against an incumbent president, which is never, that's not what you want, ideally. It's during a pandemic, which early on, we were wondering which way that would swing. Is that going to help Trump? Is it going to hurt Trump? It's seeming right now like it's maybe kind of canceling out in both directions. How significant will Obama's endorsement be? But more importantly, if Obama is spending the next 6 months, traveling around campaigning for Biden, do you think that can help to overcome some of the fairly obvious limitations of Biden as a candidate these days?
I think the endorsement itself won't have much of an impact, because most people who like Biden already liked him because of the Obama association. Like, Biden's name recognition comes from being Obama's vice president. So no one's going to see this and be like, oh, I'm on board now. Sorry, I almost cursed. TV 14, right? So yeah, no. Sorry.
There are kids on the internet, Jordan. I don't know what language
you
use on Twitch, but this is YouTube, baby. Okay.
Oh yeah, notoriously family-friendly YouTube. um, yeah, no one's going to see that and suddenly be on board with Biden now. What this does do, and I think the benefit the Obama endorsement brings, is Obama the campaigner. And I think Obama's strength in 2008, and even like when his DNC speech in the mid 2000s, that's his, that he is a great orator. He's energetic. He's captivating. That is who really will bring a lot of power, and a huge benefit to Biden. But now, in the age of coronavirus, sorry to use that tired phrase, but we don't know what digital campaigning looks like. And the Biden campaign has already struggled to create compelling content online. I mean, Biden is in his house, he's in his basement, he's talking directly to the camera, he's reading from a teleprompter. Not the most entertaining thing. It's not the damage report. But Obama is way more skilled and savvy in
I
that field.
appreciate that.
So,
Thank you.
Obama, yeah, of course, Obama, the campaigner in the digital world, is also something we could look forward to see a benefit for Biden.
Yeah, he could use it because, I mean, Biden has not shown any of the sort of savvy that we've gotten out of Bernie and the Bernie campaign in terms of adapting to coronavirus. I guess to some extent, it's kind of like a hidden blessing for Biden, though, because now if he doesn't have rallies that anyone goes to, it's not his fault, which it probably would have happened anyway. But yeah, look, assuming he is the nominee, that's the direction we're going, and it's not guaranteed or anything like that, but assuming he is the nominee, he is going to need all the help that he can get. I'm just speaking pragmatically, not in terms of my interests. He is going to need help. And look, if you look at, for people unlike you and I and our audience, people who are far from very online, a lot of them think of Obama and they think of the things that they think of as good. They're not thinking of drone strikes and the fact that he could have gone farther on single payer or any number of other issues. We can start listing them and we could go on longer than an hour. They think of him as, you know what, he seemed like a guy who had it together. He seemed kind of smart. He seemed stable. He seemed like he cared about people. And so associating that with Joe Biden is probably not a bad idea from Joe Biden's point of view. I mean, after all, that is literally the only thing he did during the primary, was trying to get people to think of Obama while he was standing next to that thought. Anyway, I also wanted to say, you couldn't tell because you were when you were talking, but your cat was climbing up your guitar in the background.
Oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah.
she likes to do that.
It was adorable.
She likes to go up there and pluck the strings because
Yeah.
that's the sound it makes. I don't know if it picked it up, but
Cat musician there. Any other thoughts on Obama?
no.
Yeah,
There's nothing I can say on here.
Oh, the news. Yeah. Okay, before we move on to other news, and there's a lot of news to get to, I do want to read some of these super chats. Thank you, everybody who has been participating in the super chats and also tweeting at hashtag TDR Live. Fermata says, happy birthday, John. Thank you. Quick thoughts on Final Fantasy VII Remake. My thoughts are that I have not played it. I've heard good things, but two things have stopped me from playing it. One, the last Final Fantasy I played was either 1 or 4 a million years ago. And 2 is that I've heard that it's being released episodically. I'll just wait until there's a bunch of it out. I don't want to just start and then stop. For an RPG, that doesn't work for me. Have you played it, Jordan?
I've never played Final Fantasy.
Any of them?
Yeah. None. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. It's all COD all the way.
Right.
Carson Rodkey says, pics of baby John or it didn't happen. Yeah, that's the funny thing. Maybe this is true for you too, Jordan. There's photos of you as a kid because your family would take Polaroids or whatever. Then for me, there's a drop off. I'm older than Jordan. There's a drop off where phones didn't have cameras, and then Facebook hits, and you have a photo of literally everything you've ever done. So there's this weird middle ground.
Yep.
The uncanny photo valley. Pissed off redneck. Thank you for your super chat. Robert Beach says, our system of government is not corrupt. Corruption is our system of government. Nothing changes until we change that. Visit represent.us to learn how. Thank you, Robert. I share your concerns about the endemic corruption. Kevin says, John, the video Trump presented during was a little disturbing. I feel as if we are living in two different realities. Are we being too critical of him, or is he legit crazy? Well, Kevin, we're actually going to turn to that in just one moment, so hold on to your butts. We're almost there. And Lawrence, thank you for your dancing fist bump emoji. I appreciate that. And with that, why don't we turn now to some of the chaos from yesterday? Yesterday, Donald Trump had his coronavirus press conference, which is neither really about coronavirus nor is it really a press conference, but that's what they're calling it. And it was insane. There's no other word to put to it. I'm not going to show you the video because that's what he wants. That's why they put it together. But just so that you know what we're talking about, I decided to take a couple of graphic elements from it. And conveniently, I found some of them on our guest, Jordan Yule's Twitter account. So we're going to go to those now. And so he stood in front of, like, these are definitely graphics made by someone for whom graphic design is their passion. The media minimized the risk from the start on both of them. And then, let's see, that's what he said. The media minimized the risk from the start. Great font choice. And while President Trump took decisive action. And, okay, so Jordan, you're with us. What is going on in our country at this point? Like, I understand his goal. It is to obviously to create a sensation. Maybe send a few people to go watch Sean Hannity, from which he took some of this footage. What did you make of it? What do you think the appropriate response to yesterday's display was?
Oh God. I also don't think those should be aired live because they're just like it's an outlet for the Trump administration to lie and misinform the public, and in a health crisis that could result in death. So I think it's absolutely. I think newsrooms need to have a serious conversation inside about whether or not they play these. MSNBC played that whole clip. So it was an absolute farce. And as reporters pointed out, he cherry picked clips from different points and different outlets to show when people were first starting to understand the severity of the virus. He tried to paint media outlets as downplaying it and introduce this revisionist history alternative narrative in this clip, where in his world, he took quick, decisive action, which we know that's not true. Like, he's got multiple comments on the record saying like it's not a big deal. His campaign spokesperson, who is now the White House press secretary, said it won't even come to the country. I mean, there's just from December through, maybe the beginning of March, end of February, they just lied about it constantly. And people knew the consequences of it. That's why we saw Burr and the senator from Georgia, who's Nate Loeffler, and a handful of others dumped their stock. They were doing insider trading because they knew it was coming. All the people in power knew it was coming, and Trump knew. And to act like he acted swiftly and decisively is an outright lie.
Yeah, and look, I don't like going over it every single day, but the little bit of influence that I have on literally anything is to hopefully correct the record occasionally and make sure that people who might be every day new people enter into this ridiculous political world that we have. And I want to make sure that they're armed with the right information. And if people are only now paying attention to politics as a result of how important day-to-day politics seems in a time of emergency, then they need to know that the web of lies that Fox News and Donald Trump are spinning is not accurate. And so let's just briefly touch on a few of these things. So the media minimized the risk from the start is what he is saying now, despite the fact that he tweeted on February 26th, low ratings, fake news, MSDNC, and CNN are doing everything possible to make the coronavirus look as bad as possible, including panicking markets if possible. Okay, so it's one of two things. Either they're artificially playing up the threat to hurt you, or they have been downplaying it to hurt you. He didn't even explain yesterday what they were supposedly downplaying it for. They were minimizing the risk. They were attacked over and over and over again. Let's bring up, this was from, this is from March 10th. Laura Ingraham, Trump confronts the panic pushers. And then February 27th, Varney, Dems are drumming up panic about coronavirus. I will say, I wanted to find examples of each of them doing this. And there was one that, at least in the brief search that I did, I wasn't able to find. I literally hate giving credit to this person, so I'm going to remind you that they are a white supremacist whose show exists to support white supremacy in America. But Tucker Carlson, even as far back as March 9th, actually criticized sort of implicitly Fox News for minimizing coronavirus. So the media did minimize it, but specifically inside of Fox News. That's what I was able to find.
Right. Yeah, it's a complete and total 180 on this. Like, I'm so curious. I don't watch Fox, But I'd be so curious to see how they're trying to spin this, because they know exactly what they did. Like, they lied about it, they covered it up, they downplayed the severity, and they acted like it wasn't going to be a big threat. I mean, there's every Trump official has a comment on the record saying it's not going to be a big deal, or Wilbur Ross or Larry Kudlow, I think it was Kudlow, saying, this could be great for bringing jobs back. Like, there's everything about it.
Yes, yes. Great
They were also
point.
talking about reopening the economy a couple weeks ago for Easter. Like, they were just like ready to charge through it. Now all of a sudden it's severe. I don't know. I'm sure there's people out there that believe it, but it's absolutely laughable if they're trying it.
Yeah, and hopefully they won't get away with it. I am worried that they in fact will, especially when, like, the New York Times, who he spent part of the coronavirus press conference attacking, all of what happened yesterday. And I know that we're just talking about one part of it now. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. But that whole thing, which was like in any other, like, imagine if Barack Obama was just going along in his normal way, and then one day he had a press conference where all of this stuff happened. Like, people would lose their minds. But how is that presented? Thanks to the normalization that we've experienced day by day. The New York Times headline was Trump turns daily coronavirus briefing into a defense of his record. He played like a Sean Hannity propaganda video, and then he had staff take time out during a pandemic to selectively edit clips of reporters to make him look good. That's not just defends his record, it's an obvious lie about it. Like, they don't even, if you just read that, you can't even tell that he was lying. Like, that right. Sean Hannity, in the clip that he put, Sean Hannity clipped himself talking to a report, like a doctor or reporter, way back in like January, and he made it seem as if he was taking it seriously when the part they cut the video, and if you continue, he's like, yeah, so we'll go send some help to China and just stop it there and we'll be fine. But like, obviously he didn't include that. So Sean Hannity knows what he spent months doing. It's just, it's so insane that their audience doesn't remember this. Like, they were tuning in the whole time. They were passionately in agreement with Sean Hannity day by day that the media was ginning this up just to hurt Trump and hurt the stock market. And they pivot 180 and they have no memory that past life even exists.
Yeah, I mean, it's complete and total dishonesty. This is, they're trying to cover for him every step of the way. And it's horrifying because right now, nurses don't have enough protective equipment. People are out of work. Tens of millions of people, are going to lose their jobs. Millions of people lost their health insurance. And then what do they get? They get a paltry $1,200. Like, that's not enough. That's not enough to survive. People are having. I talk to people all over the place, and multiple people who've told me they've lost their jobs. They can't even file for unemployment because the state sites are so overloaded. So they have no idea what's going to happen. These are things that the administration should be focused on. These are things that the members of Congress and the Trump White House, that's where the task force should direct their efforts, not reopening the economy. How do we get people help? Because this isn't going away. Like, we don't have a vaccine, and we won't have a vaccine for a while now, maybe 18 months. So that's just something to consider. This is not going to go away in a couple of weeks. And we saw when you reopen the economy in places like South Korea, it flares. It goes back up. Like, it spreads again because we don't have a vaccine. So people need to understand this. So we have to stay inside. We have to focus on workers. We have to focus on improving living conditions and getting direct economic relief to those impacted, not controlling some BS media narrative.
Yeah, and, just reopening things could theoretically cause it to naturally spread from person to person again. We also have some indication that it might lie dormant in people after their symptoms go away and then come back spontaneously. It's not very well understood. We don't know for sure, but it's possible that could happen. And so, look, the last 48 hours, the death numbers were about the same each day, but they were lower than the days before. That's a good sign. Perhaps we'll continue going down, but not necessarily. And I in reference to the $1,200 checks that you said, I remember when that first bill passed, like the week after that, I had a bunch of people on, including some people who do reporting in DC, and I asked them sort of, what way are we leaning for follow-up legislation? What are the next steps going to be? And I wouldn't have guessed at the time that the next steps would be, literally nothing, that would be the last thing that you heard, that weeks would go by, you still won't even know when you're going to get the check, and there will be literally nothing done. And soon, in 2 weeks, people are going to have to pay rent for the second time during all of this. That's another disaster, which as you point out, many millions of people that are probably unemployed we don't even have records of yet. They got their trillions for the corporations, and they moved on. They gave us a token payment to shut us up, and then that's it. They're not returning to it. They're done.
Yep. Yeah. And in the meantime, Trump has removed all oversight capacity in the watchdog office that was supposed to oversee these corporate bailouts. So we're going to see, rampant corruption. We're going to see Trump's cronies and Trump supporters and companies that kiss his butt get payouts when people like you and I and everyone else watching are going to struggle. So this really great, healthy economy and country we have here. It's deeply frustrating that the people in power, time and time again, as you've pointed out many times on your show, and progressives have pointed out for years, that the Democratic Party is just letting us down. They're not actually fighting for workers' interests and everyday people's interests. Yeah. They'll offer hollow platitudes and campaign rhetoric about how they're going to go shake up Washington when they want to get elected, and then where do they go? They disappear. They just become another cog in the machine. And now here it is, rearing its ugly head in a time when everyone needs help, and they're doing nothing.
Yeah. Okay, let's catch up on the super chat before we move on. Lawrence Gassett, I think I actually gave you a shout out, but thank you. That's your second, so thank you. Madeline says, missed opportunity for Comic Sans on the... Yeah, he should have just done it, just to troll his audience, because then they would have... Like, if he had put up Trump active decisively in Comic Sans, then a day later, Ben Shapiro would be doing a segment about how Comic Sans is the most alpha font. Like, and they would just all have to be making their memes in Comic Sans from then on. Yeah. Kayla says, first time catching the show live. TDR has helped keep me sane during quarantine. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Kayla. I appreciate that. Let's see. Ricky says, thoughts on Dems clinging to ACA and private insurance can coexist while we watch Republicans try to dismantle privatized USPS during a pandemic. Yeah. I can't wait to be past this emergency so we can go back to all of the other ones. And I remember, again, like with the follow-up legislation, thinking, so what are some of the silver linings in terms of how our politicians will be forced to reevaluate the way they've approached different topics? And again, the answer is nothing. They're not going to rethink anything. Kay Darren, thank you for your super chat. Gabby sent in a photo of her from middle school, her hair. I think it looks pretty good, Gabby. Better than my
Is that what yours looked like?
Pretty much. It wasn't quite that long. And Liberal Snowflake says, Donald Trump did work decisively and quickly to save his friend's money. Yeah, Kelly Loeffler was working hardcore that first day to make sure that she didn't lose any money. And Burr and others as well. Okay, with that, let's jump back into it, Jordan. Okay, there we go. During yesterday's press conference, Donald Trump displayed a White House prepared timeline of the actions that he took, and they were very proud of it, despite the fact that there was a pretty big gap in the middle there where they couldn't find up literally anything to list as an action from Donald Trump, and a CBS News reporter, Paula Reed, noticed that and brought it up to Donald Trump.
Grant's supposed to make people feel confident in an unprecedented crisis.
Nobody thought we should do it, and when I did it...
But what did you do with the time that you bought?
You know what we did?
The month of February. That video was a gap.
What do you do?
Month of February.
What do you do when you have no case in the whole United States?
You had cases in February.
Excuse me, you reported it. 0 cases, 0 deaths on January 17th.
January. February, the entire
January, I said in January.
Your video has a complete gap.
On January 30th.
What did your administration do in February with the time that your travel ban botched?
A lot. And in fact, we'll give you a list. What we did, in fact, part of it was up there. We did a lot. Look. You know you're a fake. You know that. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. And most of you, and not all of you, But the people are wise to you. That's why you have a lower approval rating than you've ever had before, times probably 3. And when you ask me that question, let me ask you this: why did Biden apologize? Why did he write a letter of apology? No, that's very important. Why did the Democrats think that I acted too quickly? You know why? Because they really thought that I acted too quickly. We have done a great job. Now, I could have kept it open. And I could have done what some countries are doing. They're getting beat up pretty badly. I could have kept it open. I thought of keeping it open because nobody's ever heard of closing down a country, let alone the United States of America. But if I would have done that, we would have had hundreds of thousands of people that would right now be dead. We've done this right, and we really...
Okay, so, honestly, screw our entire universe. So he was asked a very simple question. Why is it that in your presentation, literally the only thing listed for February is, on like the 7th, I think, the CDC ships initial test kits, which, by the way, they don't mention on that graphic, they were defective. They didn't actually work. That was literally the only entry on the list that they put together. He spoke for 1:30 and could not come up with a single thing. He said plenty. He said, we're going to write up a list. He couldn't think of literally anything. And one of the most frustrating things to me that I keep coming back to is that there are millions of Americans who still think of him as a strong alpha person who dodges questions, can't defend himself, is loose thinking, does weak little body language things. He couldn't own up to his own failures. He couldn't face a tough question. He immediately pivoted to attacking her, to attacking the rest of the media, to talking about the fact that he closed everything down, and if not, hundreds of thousands would have died. It still strikes me as an incredibly bizarre thing to brag about closing down the country when over 500,000 Americans have coronavirus literally as we're recording this. It kind of seems like that was ineffective. Maybe don't brag so much about something that so clearly and obviously failed throughout the country. And that epic failure to provide even a fake answer, something overblown that he did in February, to hide behind. He couldn't even do that, Jordan. He couldn't come up with literally anything.
No, I mean, I think that clip was really interesting when you sent that over this morning. I had not seen it yet. And I think that was an instance where he was really cornered. I haven't seen that from him before. I mean, he usually has some way to kind of weasel out of tough questions. But here he had nothing. He was floored for February. And he tried to point to January, and he tried to, skirt around the question. But she pinned him, and then he got mad. And if you know anyone that behaves like that in your life, that's when they're really embarrassed. I know a couple people like that, unfortunately, who just, they're just too arrogant and too confident in themselves and overconfident to admit that they were wrong. And for him, that has political consequences. And we've seen time and time again in reporting that they try to slow the roll of tests, rollouts, and protective equipment and all of these things because they figured the more cases the United States has, the less likely he would be reelected. So he was playing politics with people's lives, which is just absolutely disastrous and just evil. At its core, deeply evil and self-serving. So people are getting to the bottom of that, and they exposed him for that with the February question, and he flipped out. This is a terrible person to be leading us in this circumstance. I'm not sure if who would be better right now, because certainly it is a brutal, unique circumstance, but he is so deeply ill-equipped for this.
Yeah, and by the way, a lot of what you were pointing out in terms of like him trying to rewrite history, and obviously he wants to protect his reputation, and he was trying to hide the numbers in real time. Like, he doesn't even have the savvy to have done that like privately. Like you might remember the press conference where he was talking about the people who were infected on a cruise ship and hadn't yet been allowed off. And he said, no, I don't want to let them off because I like our numbers where they are, and I don't want our numbers to go up, and it's not even our fault. Like, he was admitting publicly what he was doing. The record is all there. I feel this sort of knee-jerk sort of legacy need to point it out, even though I know that it doesn't matter to literally anybody. But she did a great job. He was petulant and emotional. You know, if I was, you know, Matt Walsh, I'd say that he was triggered by her question. But you know what? He was a dick, so I'm going to be a dick. So we know what he didn't do during February. He didn't require, you know, the mass purchasing and distribution of tests for coronavirus that actually work. He didn't start manufacturing ventilators and starting to distribute them or having them ready in distribution centers all throughout the country. He didn't start encouraging governors to put into effect plans for social distancing and, you know, safety at home orders. He didn't do any of that. But that's not to say that he didn't do anything. Well, he did this. On February 10th, he had a campaign rally. On February 19th, he had a campaign rally. On February 20th, he had a campaign rally. The next day, on February 21st, he had a campaign rally. A week later, he had a campaign rally. And you know what? Because he was a real dick, he also played golf 3 times in February, which, just for the record, is more times than I've played golf. Ever. He did it during the pandemic, and he played it multiple times in March as well. So he was busy, I guess. And I will just add, Lindsey Graham had a tweet earlier today that he was like, we voted to acquit Trump in early February. He was obviously really distracted by the whole impeachment thing. And I thought, okay, so you just pointed out that it ended in the first week. Okay, so he has a long weekend to sort of absorb what just happened to him. Then he has weeks left in February to actually do one goddamn thing to stop the spread of the coronavirus. What did he do? You're giving him a free pass on the first week. What about the other 3? Literally nothing.
Right.
And we still have 1,500 people a day dying.
Totally. Yeah. And that whole month is filled with comments from him, and even into March, downplaying the severity. So he knew it was coming, and he talked about it, and he denied it. So he's clearly not affected by what he called a witch hunt and a phony investigation. You know, that's not something that seemed to bother him that much. So he moved on. He went to Mar-a-Lago multiple times. He went golfing. He did campaign rallies, and ignored the consequences and ignored this thing as it was speeding toward us. People like Lindsey Graham, when they say things like that, you know, you got to remember they're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. They have healthcare provided through their job. Their job is safe. Potentially, I mean, unless Lindsey Graham loses his election, but you know, for the most part, he's going to be fine. He's wealthy, he's well off, he's stable. They don't care about you. Like, people need to understand that they do not care about you. This is like, when they say things like that, it's not just defense of the president. It's that your life does not matter. And I think that's the point we need to underscore here.
Yeah. And I can see in the chat there's some troll who's talking about like that we're angry because we have Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah, I guess I'm a snowflake. I get emotional when every 2 days we have a 9/11 of unnecessary deaths. Okay, that bothers me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just sensitive in that way. I don't like thousands of Americans to die for no goddamn reason. Yeah. I'm a baby when Americans are dying all over the place.
Yeah, mass graves really triggers me.
Exactly. God, we're just not tough. Why weren't we toughened up as kids?
Yeah,
mass graves are my peanut allergy. Okay?
I'm sorry we're not a psychopath like the person in the chat who like literally does not care when people are dying.
Yeah, I wish I could just like look at a mass grave and just take another bite of my sandwich. Sorry, I'm not there yet.
Give it time, man. Give it time. Just tough it up.
Anyway, okay, so we have a little bit more on this in just a second, but there were some super chats came in. Benjamin Matthews says, "Good morning, John. A year ago, climate change is big news. Scientists say we have less than 10 years to correct things. Today, cities can see their skies. Wars are on hold. People being nice to each other. Can we hold on to this?" Those are all admirable silver linings. And that's as far as I can go with it. We're gonna go. I mean, I hope that it gives people a taste for the sort of world that has less needless transportation, less needless consumption, and an appreciation for the relative improvement we have in like air quality and things like that. I have a feeling we're probably going to get back to what we were at in about 6 months, but we'll see. Okay, Franklin says, until today, Wyoming was the last state in the U.S. without a reported death linked to the coronavirus pandemic. 275 reported. Sorry for the grim report. Franklin, thank you for that update. Yes, it is truly a universal issue. Ghost Dog says, yeah, but we have really smart antibiotics. Yeah. My God. He doesn't know. He's a 70-year-old man. He's a parent, many times parent. He doesn't know what antibiotics do. How? I don't know. The POC, People of Color, says, Star Trek test, John. GOP is the Husnak. I only wish I was a Dowd. Remember that? Thank you for all you do. 5-star show. Would give another super chat to see Jordan grow his afro. Peace. Thank you. I don't actually get that. Is that original series? Because I didn't watch much original series, and I didn't watch most of Deep Space Nine, but I did watch all of the rest. And let's see. Tom Zawaki says, Trump sounds like a third grader who just got caught cheating on a test. That is 100% accurate. And let's see. Oh, so Tom Zawaki also sent us a link to David Dayen's most recent piece that, so supposedly some banks are sort of prepping to effectively steal your $1,200 check to apply it to existing debts. Thank you for letting me know about that. I'm actually going to be reaching out to David to join us to talk about that, because that's great work that he's doing there, and very much a concern. And Dominique Franco says, the only thing I love more than Jordan Ewell on the Damage Report today is finding out that he streams COD as well. Warzone is craziness. Don't knock it till you try it, John. You think I haven't tried it? What do you think I am? I'm on lockdown. You don't think I'm playing a free game? I love COD. I used to like devastate people in deathmatch in the older CODs.
We gotta have you on the stream, man. It's fun. We got a nice little group going. Yeah.
That would be awesome. Okay, with that, why don't we jump back into it? And let's see. Okay, there we go. And there we go. Okay. Let me make sure. I think we have 2 videos. It's nice to have a technical director when you're doing a show. I'll say that. When you have to do it yourself, a little bit more complicated. I have a newfound appreciation for my amazing and awesome staff. Okay, let's jump into it. During yesterday's press conference, one thing stuck out. That was Donald Trump claiming, without any supporting evidence or constitutional basis, that he has total authority during the pandemic to do what? I guess it depends on his mood and the day. But certainly he seemed to think that if states decided not to reopen their economies along his timeline, that he could overrule them. So we have a couple of clips demonstrating this. Here is the first.
Consortiums of states today, California, Oregon, Washington on the West Coast, northeastern states, totally representing about 100 million people, who said they're going to cooperate and decide when to reopen.
Well, they can decide, but
does that undermine what you're trying to do?
No, not at all. Let me just tell you, very simple. I'm going to put it very simply. The President of the United States has the authority to do what the President has the authority to do, which is very powerful. The President of the United States calls the shots. If we weren't here for the states, you would have had a problem in this country like you've never seen before. We were here to back them up, and we've more than backed them up. We did a job that nobody ever thought was possible. It's a decision for the President of the United States. Now, with that being said, we're going to work with the states because it's very important. You have local governments. They're pinpointed. It's really, you talk about, it's like a microchip. They're pinpointed. We have local government that hopefully will do a good job. And if they don't do a good job, I'd step in so fast. But no, they can't do anything without the approval of the President of the United States.
Okay, so it doesn't really get more definitive than they can't do anything without the approval of the president, which I think marks a bit of a turn for the right wing on their view of states' rights from some of the past instances in American history.
Yeah. What happened to small government?
Exactly.
And this is, but also like, what's he doing?
Mm-hmm.
If he has the final say, what is he doing? So I think you're going to see even right wing states like Ohio has really been an interesting case study in a Republican governor just kind of going his own way. He declared health emergency to stop in-person voting in mid-March, and he's been taking it extremely seriously. Doesn't seem to be downplaying the threat at all. Has been doing daily briefings, updating people. I just know because I grew up in Ohio and keep a close eye on it because I got family there. But it is interesting to see that a Republican governor there is just not really caring. Mm-hmm. Trump is just like it's the strong man machismo persona that he loves to lean into, but like it's completely it's always hollow. But right here, it's like demonstrably hollow because he's not doing anything. Yeah. So he wants to assume all power and control, but also isn't doing anything to back it up. And if that becomes a bottleneck, that could be extremely serious in its consequences.
Yeah, and it's such, like, there's such a fast turn these days. From like a week and a half ago, it was the stockpile's ours. We're not supposed to be doing logistics for the states. We're just a backup. They're on their own. Now we're in charge of literally everything that they do. That's certainly a change. For the people in the chat who are asking what he meant by the microchip thing, I don't know and he doesn't know. So it's going to be hard for us to I don't know what that was. I would love for him to just talk about what he thinks a microchip is. Or antibiotics, either way. He's kind of an idiot across all areas. And we do have updates on how some of the governors responded to this, but really fast, I do want to go to one more clip of Trump where he doubles down on the authority he thinks he has in this area.
If a governor issued a stay-at-home... When you say my authority, the president's authority, not mine, because it's not me. This is when somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be.
Your authority is total.
It's total. It's total. And the governors know that.
So if
the governors know that. Now you have a couple of bands of excuse me. You have a couple.
Could you rescind that order?
You have a couple of bands of Democrat governors, but they will agree to it. They will agree to it. But the authority of the President of the United States having to do with the subject we're talking about is total.
Okay, so it's total, it's total, it's total. He's asked directly, can they rescind a call to not send people back to work or whatever? And he didn't answer because, again, he's a coward. He runs from specific questions. But he is implying there that it's up to him. Look, I would say, to your point about the machismo thing, I first of all, I would always add it's fake machismo. But I think he doesn't actually think that he has the authority to force them to go to work, but he wants to be able to pretend that he does now to give a signal to his followers that he cares about the economy. So for any of his followers who haven't yet been killed by the coronavirus, and unfortunately more did than needed to because they listened to people like him and Fox News, they now have been told, forget about the death toll. If it's 1,000 Americans, 2,000 Americans a day, that's fine. They're watching Tucker Carlson. They think that that's a great success. Now what they care about is the NASDAQ, even though the vast majority of them don't own a single dollar in stock. But they've been led to believe that that's what's important. And so Trump looks like that's what he's prioritizing. He's willing to take command, to force them to go back to work, even though it is an entirely fake boast. He can't actually do that. He can put pressure in the same way that when I was saying he should have been encouraging states to shut down earlier, he can put pressure on them to do that. He can't force them to do that. I wasn't saying that he should require them to do that, but he can encourage them to. And there's a lot of Republican governors who are going to follow his lead. If he had said to shut down earlier, they would have done that. If he says to open up, they're going to do that. And then the medical consequences will follow.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, you've seen more rural red states with lower case counts because of how the population lives out there. It's not as densely populated as everyone's spread out. But if that happens and Republican governors send people back to work and encourage people to comply and people go back to their offices, you could see spikes in red states where maybe some Democratic governors who are more resistant, you would see kind of a lower per capita case count there. So you have to be cautious here. We've seen, again, like we mentioned it earlier, South Korea saw a spike after they reopened, and yes, we saw that in China as well. Yeah. So you can't rush into this. This is just, he's trying to protect stock market gains. Yes, for election reasons, and he thinks that running on the economy, a strong economy, even in a time of pandemic, would help him. But ultimately, because people close to him stand to gain. People who are super close to Donald Trump have tons of money in the market, and that they see now as a good time to buy because then they could make money off of the gains. This is deeply alarming that he's letting the interests of the wealthy supersede the interests of the many at a time like this, because unlike most other circumstances, way more people are going to die. Already when you have a corporate first approach, people are caught in the wake and they're crushed by the gears of capitalism. Here, even more so. So this is purely self-interested for both him and the ultra wealthy.
Yeah, and look, you're saying it's disconcerting. It's disconcerting that he's moving this direction. It's also disconcerting that so many on the right seem willing to fall in line, that their view of, Obama was out of control because he was going to take all your guns, and something Jade Gate operation in Texas or whatever it was called.
Jade Helm, baby.
Jade Helm. He's going to take over everything. because he's a dictator, and then he didn't, and they just move on. They don't care about that. So now Trump says he has total authority over everything, and a lot of them are just like, yeah, that's okay, that's cool. He's our guy. I don't really care about that. No, literally, I'm gonna jump ahead a bit, but where is it now? Yeah, so Breitbart headline: Trump says he has authority to open up states, not governors. That's basically the entire article. They're just no. He says it's up to him. Okay, I guess that's where we're at now. What are we doing? We're doing dictator. Okay, cool. Oh, and by the way, there's this weird subset of like contrarian online commentator that like can never accept that Trump has done anything wrong, and that have been saying like, you all say that he's like an authoritarian, but look, it's an emergency. He's not like taking like supreme power. Like, this is 2 weeks ago. I'm sure those people are updating their commentary for his "I have total authority to force people to go die in the grist mill of the American economy." I'm sure they're updating based on that. But anyway, you'll be shocked to find out that the Constitution does not say that he can force states to send their people to work. We're not slaves. We're not robots. If we don't want to, or if our governor, says that we have to stay at home, that's what the federal system of government that we have says. And he's not finding a lot of support from legal scholars either. Fox News, I've seen their initial response has been a little bit split. They've had guests on who have said it's totally not up to him, but they are presenting it as just a conflict between he thinks it's on him, the governors think it's on them. Who's to say? And so I don't know what Sean Hannity will end up saying tonight, or Tucker Carlson. I imagine it won't be just, hey, read the Constitution, buddy.
No, yeah. To your point earlier about people, fear mongering or kind of mocking the commentary on Trump's authoritarianism. These types of lackeys are absolutely complicit in this moment. They want to defend him in lockstep, everything he does, everything he says. But in a time like this, as Naomi Klein has written about and talked about, and other people have observed, like, these are moments when bad actors really seize power and force through, corrupt measures, power grabs, in this kind of shock doctrine way. So that the people who are advocating and defending him are complicit in what is a destruction and a crippling of democracy. This and absolutely encouraging corporate corruption and power grabs from authoritarians. This is super alarming. And I know people want to kind of check out. This is something that's kind of been bothering me lately. A lot of people want to check out and just like binge watch Netflix to escape it. And yeah, I know this is like this sucks. This really sucks, and it's grim and it's tough to watch. But you have to be attentive more, like now more than ever. Like, you cannot check out, because they want you to do that so that they can just take and do whatever they want. Like, you have to pay attention. You have to be alert.
Yeah. And we don't know what they might try to pass during what remains of this crisis, especially if it goes on a long time. But while we can speculate, they already got the biggest thing they want, which is perhaps the biggest sack of coins that they can distribute to corporations and individuals that they like, that we've ever seen in American history. Literally trillions of dollars that, like, the most corrupt people in our country's history are going to be able to just give to whoever they want. They'll be able to play the stock market in advance of giving that money, knowing that stock prices will be boosted by huge bailouts being given to individual corporations. Like, that was the Patriot Act of this disaster. It was passed almost immediately with almost no conversation, which implies to me that they didn't start thinking about it when the crisis happened. It had kind of already been on their mind. And they already have that. Anything else is sort of gravy. The stake is $2.5 trillion that they have unilateral control to give to whoever they want, including themselves. So we have one more topic to get to. Thank you to everybody who has been super chatting. I'm going to get to those at the close of the show. I want to make sure that we can fit in this last topic with what remains of our time. So let me advance this, and here we go. Donald Trump is not the only candidate whose fate will be determined come November. There are any number of others who have also done a great deal of damage in their positions. Susan Collins is a great example of that, and things are not looking amazing for her right now. A survey released Monday by the Bangor Daily News found that just 37% of voters in the state approve of the job she has done as senator, compared with 52% who said they disapproved. That represents a drop of 5 percentage points in a short period of time. She also, by the way, is the least popular senator in their own state in the entire country. She makes Mitch McConnell look well-loved. And so, Jordan, Susan Collins losing in November, how significant would that be? How much better would you feel about the state of our country if we ended up getting that?
Oh, that'd be great. I mean, if Biden wins, like he has to have the Senate too. So I mean, without the Senate, it's going to be kind of a lame duck presidency from the start, which is terrible. So every Senate race matters. So Collins has been a target from groups like 80 Barcans for a while. This is she has to lose. I don't know how to describe it other than that. She's defended Trump every step of the way. She really hasn't broken from him. She likes to act concerned, but at the end of the day, she seems to vote for everything he puts forward. And now this is the consequence. This is what you got yourself into. This is what you hitched your wagon to.
Yeah.
And now she has to kind of reap what she sowed.
I'm curious, a couple of the sort of standout choices, opportunities that she's had over the past few years to really put some distance between herself and Donald Trump. She had Kavanaugh, she had the impeachment, and in both cases, she would give a little speech and then she would do what Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell wanted her to do. Do you think that if she had gone the opposite way on Kavanaugh or on impeachment, that in a state like Maine, maybe that would be the difference that might have helped her to hold on her position? And again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. She's still an incumbent senator. She has a good chance of winning. But if she does lose, do you think that those things might prove to have been decisive?
I mean, those were certainly the most high-profile moments for her. And it's tough to say what would have a causal impact. But yeah, like you said, she held out on the Kavanaugh vote and kind of created a spectacle. I mean, she could have just kept her head down and no one really would have noticed. But the fact that she held out for so long and there was this kind of uncertainty around which way she would vote, and then like announced in advance, like, oh, I'm going to give a speech on the floor in a couple hours in the lead up to the Kavanaugh vote, saying like which way she was going to vote, and she voted to confirm him. I mean, she brought that attention on herself. So it's part, her votes, but also part that she wanted the attention. She wanted the spotlight for really disastrous things. That was, I'm sure, a calculation in her office and her campaign team to see like which way they thought based on polling she should vote. But as things have aged as they've we've created some distance between then and now, and we've seen the consequences of the Trump administration, she's intrinsically tied to everything he does now. So it might have looked good there, but in retrospect, maybe not the smartest move.
Yeah, you make a great point, because she could have just done the vote, and that probably would have done some damage, but she always drew a lot of attention to herself, and there are some politicians that hypothetically could have spun some sort of narrative or distracted us with, oration, something like that, but she's not that sort of person. Like, she's more bumbling in her speech than she is in her political strategy, and so she really sort of like, it was insult to injury for her from her own perspective. It was a really weird choice. And again, she could end up winning. You never know. Coronavirus could change everything. I don't know, like anyone, like the progressive primary challengers, my heart really goes out to them, because I have a feeling that that job, which is always very difficult, is probably made far more difficult by the fact that they can't do door-to-door canvassing and all of that, and donations are probably down because people are hurting. There's a lot of people who are unemployed, which is why I keep saying that regardless of whatever you plan to do in November in the general election, please support the down-ballot progressive candidates, especially if they're still in the primaries. They need your help now more than ever. That might help some of these incumbents slip by when otherwise they might have been taken out. We'll have to see. Jordan, thank you as always for joining us, taking time out of your busy work and social media and streaming schedule. You are a busy man, so we appreciate you giving us some of your time.
I've got all the time in the world for you, John.
Thank you. Where can people see more of your work in the various forms that it comes in?
I'm on Twitter at Jordan Yule, and twitch.tv/really_chill_guy.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. Yeah. By the way, I saw a reference to your Twitch name in the chat, both yours and mine. So people are
Really?
following you, and they apparently remember my Twitch name from like 2.5 years ago, the last time I streamed.
Is that Game Set John?
It is from
Nice.
forever ago. Okay, well, Jordan, thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and look forward to the next time we get to talk.
Thanks, John.
And for those of you at home, thank you so much for all your super chats. Let me catch up on these. Donna, thank you for sending in a super chat. Charlie, enough of us snowflakes, and we have an avalanche. That's true. Maybe someday it'll be reclaimed. Chubtoad Sheldon says, this is why we need a Biden Iadarola ticket. I don't see that coming. Lil Yumper, thank you. Your message was retracted, though. I don't know why that would be. Fred says, what questions would you love a reporter to ask at the briefing? Here's the thing. As I've said a couple of times recently, I guess, like, there would be, I don't know, like a feeling of, like, a little bit of satisfaction for any sort of tough question, including what you saw from that CBS reporter there. I mean, I would like for them to, when he retreats from a direct question, I want them to point it out. Like, why are you hiding from this question? Why are you refusing to answer? I'm asking you the sort of question that someone who is strong would answer, and you are running. Like, I would love that, but it's not actually going to do anything. That's the thing. It would provide a little bit of, brief satisfaction, but he'll slip and slide. That's what he does. That's his one talent. Obi-Mom Kenobi says, Salty John is now my favorite John. Thank you for voicing our frustrations. Much love. Thank you, Obi-Mom. You're our only hope. Zane says, Trump's failed Americans and people are dying daily. Thank you, Zane. Yeah, unfortunately, and I'm trying to acknowledge good news too. Like, that's why I tweeted about the fact that the death numbers were down over the past 2 days, but they're still insane. Like, honestly, if you've been watching TDR for a while, since we were first doing our coronavirus coverage back when it was just in, one region of China, if I had told you then that in a single day, 1,500 Americans, let alone 2,000 or whatever the max number we've reached in one day is, you would have said, you're insane. That's never going to happen. They're not going to let it happen. And honestly, at that point, I wouldn't have believed it either. But now it's our daily experience. Now it counts as good news when that happens. Lil Yumper says, how dare you complain about people dying? I think that's in reference to my anger earlier. Thank you. Army of One says, what setting would you write your novel in, John? Well, here's the thing. So I have several, as everyone who has always wanted to write and almost never does, I have a lot of ideas. I would say that if you want to get an idea of the setting I'm working with right now, a few of the influences might be Redwall, Mouse Guard, those sorts of things. A few others. Wind in the Willows, those sorts of things. Monster Schist says, he is our great orange king in the sky. Thank you. Franklin says, also found out businesses in Wyoming still have not seen a dime in bailout money. They're all Ferengi, which used to be a Star Trek character. Yeah, I wonder about, like, obviously they give the fig leaf of the checks to us and also money to small businesses too. Who knows who's actually getting what, honestly. And they've gotten rid of the inspector generals and replaced them with loyalists. So who knows? Pissed Off Redneck says, thank you, I'm just giving you money. Well, thank you. Specifically, you're giving the channel money. The money doesn't go directly to me, as I always point out. It goes to the channel and the network, which obviously helps out, it makes me look better in terms of my career, but it helps out the network to stay solvent and hopefully help us, maintain our full staff and everything until we get back on our feet. But thank you so much. Skatari says, I heard the doggo jingle. We at 1,000 likes yet? And Zane says, where's dat puppy? Johnny Pie, we at 1,000 likes. Here's the thing. There's no puppy inside. My wife has started to take the dogs out during her walk and her outside workout in the morning. I'll try it soon. Sorry. Lawrence says, stay alert. I'm trying to, and hopefully all of you can as well. Hopefully I can be a little bit of help in that. Pixelated Bunny says, why is TDR not listed on the live show list on TUIT? That's a good question. I will find out about that. Kiara says, stimulus check is advanced on 2020 taxes, not free. Not free in a variety of ways. That is true. Jerkimer says, bravo. Thank you. Yeah, so Brian says, in reference to the microchip, says microchips are really small. He was talking about how small and accurate it is. Maybe. People are also pointing out that there's a Roger Stone conspiracy theory involving Bill Gates and coronavirus and microchips. Who knows? Who knows? Okay. And look, thank you to all of you. I start off the mornings waking up very early to produce this, and generally I wake up feeling depressed about all that I saw the previous day. But thanks to our guests who join us on the show and then the experience of talking with all of you, I usually end every hour feeling better, even if the news is really rough. I hope that you feel the same way. I hope that we can improve things even just a little bit for you as this lockdown continues. But thank you to the thousands of you who joined us. I really do appreciate that. Everyone who liked and shared the stream, participated in the chat or hashtag TDR Live, or sent in super chats. You guys are my heroes on a daily basis. So thank you very much. That's it for today. Tomorrow is JR Wednesday. I'm going to be recording multiple interviews today. So as always, check the channel to see those. One's going to be going up a little bit later today. We're doing some recordings involving Earth Day. I'm talking to some experts and environmental activists. Those will be coming soon. I'll give you more details as we get closer. But thank you to everybody, and I will see you later.